CyberHub bunker and studio. You're tuning in to the CyberHub podcast. And now for your host and CISO, James Azar.
Hey everyone, good morning. February 9th, 2021. It is another Tuesday of this year. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Practitioner Brief. If this is your first time tuning into our program, this is not another headline show. We go through the risk, impact, and mitigation of some of the most headlined cybersecurity stories and talk a little bit about what we can do to defend and take action against them, real actionable items from this show. So if you like it, please make sure to comment and subscribe. The show is live on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube, so you can say hello, good morning. Thanks so much for tuning in. Good afternoon if you're watching us from Europe and Asia. I was actually looking at our numbers, and we've got a lot of you guys tuning in, so thank you so much as well. Today's show is supported by our friends over at Know Before and Wistic. You can find more information about them in the show notes, so give them a check out. So before we get started, though, here's one aspect. I like to start my day with a cup of coffee. Join me for a ceremonial sip of coffee. Yesterday, I skipped it because we had so much to talk about. Today, we do still have a lot to talk about, but I can't skip coffee 2 days in a row. That's just a normal. Love it. All right, here we go. Let's get started with today's headline story that's everywhere. I mean, I was on LinkedIn last night and this morning, kind of like scrolling through LinkedIn and Reddit. And this story was really headline news for a lot of people where cyber criminals, I hate this headline hacker, all right? Hackers are not criminals, okay? The person who does this is not a hacker. I know plenty of hackers. None of them would do this. Cyber criminals would do this. So Threat Post, please update your headline. It's not hackers. It's cyber criminals. Tried to poison a water supply of a Florida town. So Super Bowl was on Sunday in Tampa, Florida. Apparently a city not far from Tampa, Florida in Pinellas County had a threat actor hack into their computer system of the water treatment facility in Oldsmar, Florida, and try to poison the town's water supply by raising the levels of sodium hydroxide or lye in the water supply. So we always knew that industrial control systems were going to be problematic. Luckily, the controls in place for this organization were spot on. So here's the thing. They were able to get in. Someone noticed it, started investigating. There were fail-safes in place, even if the human missed it, meaning before the water actually leaves the supply tank and goes into the water system to be distributed to homes and businesses that use it. There's several safety checks there. I've actually checked it and double-checked it. But they had a bunch of fail-safes in place, meaning the plan was solid. This is risk averted, but it's a real risk. And this is where the impact of this could have been significant. You could talk about poisoning an entire population, businesses. You could be talking about mass illness and most likely a death as well. Again, FBI, Secret Service are all investigating this. We're going to let those guys do the work that they do because, those guys know what they're doing. This isn't an isolated attack. If you folks don't recall, if this is your first time tuning in, about a little under a year ago, Iran tried to hack the Israeli water company and also do something very similar to this style of attack. Now, I don't know the full TTPs on both, so it's going to be very hard for me to give attribution to Iran, but we know that Iran tried this in Israel and nearly succeeded as well, like they almost nearly succeeded here. Again, good controls in place by the water treatment facility to ensure that they're able to avoid this. Now, from a mitigation perspective, this goes into defense in depth. So they had some sensors out there one of the employees recognized that something wasn't right, stopped everything, went and investigated. The fail-safes downstream would have worked had they been triggered. Here, the human element, which a lot of times we in cybersecurity say is the weakest element, actually was in our favor. The human element went in and pulled this out. So a job well done by the folks over there. And I'm sure the FBI will catch the cyber criminal that's behind this attack. Again, it wasn't a hacker, it was a cyber criminal. Let's move on, where according to Security Week, the U.S. agencies have published a ransomware fact sheet. So the National Cyber Investigative Joint Task Force released a joint sealed ransomware fact sheet detailing common attack techniques meant to ensure prevention and mitigation. Now, here's the thing about prevention. There's no such thing. Tomorrow, I got a great CISO talk coming with Ranana Friedlich of PayPal. It's one of the things we talk about is prevention is very, very outdated. This is the fact sheet. You can find it on our LinkedIn page. I'll post it here shortly after the podcast is over. You can kind of get an idea of some of the latest ransomware attacks and what they do and some of their TTPs and some use cases. And this is a great fact sheet to kind of have and put them even in your break room. Or share it on no break rooms if you're not working in an office. What am I thinking? I want to go back to like 2019, but this is a great thing to put in your Slack channel across the company so people know what it is and can pay attention to it. Our second story also comes courtesy of Security Week, where Google launches a database for open source vulnerabilities. For ages, we've been talking about open source vulnerabilities and the fact that GitLab and GitHub and so many others have these open source repositories that are being used by our developers, that are being used by our DevOps. And a lot of times we got to keep an inventory of them, but we don't know vulnerabilities unless we're really watching for them and so forth. Well, Google has taken it upon themselves. They've done the open source vulnerability, which will make it easier for the users of open source software to find out which vulnerability impacts them. It can also help maintainers of open source software accurately identify all versions and commits impacted by a flaw across all the different branches. Another great thing done here by Google. I don't always have to like someone to really understand that, but wonderful work by Google. They're currently they're storing information on thousands of vulnerabilities from more than 380 critical open source projects that are integrated with Google's OSS fuzzing service. However, the company wants to extend it with data from repositories such as NPM registry and PyPy. So it also wants to make it easy for developers to submit information on vulnerabilities as they see them take place. Another great tool for the community to come together, report things, get it all said and done. And finally, Microsoft is now going to alert Office 365 users of nation-state hacking activities. So according to Microsoft now, the Microsoft Defender for Office 365 will provide Office 365 enterprise accounts with email protection, and one of them will be attack remediations, but it'll let you know if a nation-state is attacking your email account. So why is this important? So this is a good move by Microsoft, by the way. I think it's a brilliant move by Microsoft from a business perspective. Microsoft has said they're no longer a software company. They look at cybersecurity as being a top business driver for them. That's kind of been the thing. The staff there, from Ann Johnson all the way to Brett, they're all just they have brilliant leadership when it comes to this. So this is great. One, because there's specific TTPs by nation-state attackers. Number two, nation-state attackers, by knowing which nation state is coming after your organization, you more or less know what they're trying to go after. Meaning we know that several nation states have different agendas when they get into a system. Some are looking for IP. Some are looking for data exfil. Some are looking for money and are trying to launch a ransomware attack in order to benefit themselves. So by knowing which nation state attacks you, you're also able to start looking at what are they going after and start investigating. This gives you a leg up. This is information that really wasn't there before. This information would be available only after you're investigating the facts. So to know, and for Microsoft to share this and let you know, hey, we're recognizing these attacks coming from nation state X is really, really helpful as a practitioner. It helps me get my mind around it. I go, okay, these guys typically look for X. So let's start looking at X and let's beef up our security controls around it. Let's start addressing it. Let's look at increased monitoring. We'll let our SOC team know, our level 1 and level 2 analysts, as you're investigating these alerts, investigating with this in mind. And now with that in mind, we give them better direction. So we slim down the attack surface, which is something really, really important. That's it for our practitioner brief this morning, folks. Thanks so much for tuning in and watching today's show. The show is live every single day, Monday through Thursday, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So you'll want to tune in for that. You can also comment if you're watching us on YouTube, Facebook, or LinkedIn. We answer questions, all that good stuff. Have a drink of coffee. I'll also be starting to do something on Fridays on Clubhouse. So if you're not on Clubhouse, ping me, let me know. The folks over at Clubhouse have been kind enough to provide me with a lot more invites so we can get you guys on there for the Clubhouse Friday kind of get together. Until then, guys, stay healthy and stay cyber safe.
We love feedback, so make sure to connect with us on social media and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform.